3, 2, 1. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Download Youth Ministry podcast. Doug Fields here with the Queen, who has matching fingernails to her logo on her shirt.
Yeah, you know, just coordinating JHM and myself.
Katie Edwards, and of course, who matches nothing.
I did not coordinate
You
today.
didn't do your nails today?
I'm wearing a youth group shirt today, so that's fun. Somebody's
Cool.
youth group.
The Reverend Josh Griffin.
Hi, everybody. How are you, Douglas?
I'm a little today. I don't know what it is.
Are you off your game?
Well,
I've been off my game all day.
It's gloomy outside here in California, which is kind of sad.
Gloom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad. It brings us down a little.
I know. Well, I don't know. We the Download Youth Ministry team was all together last night. We went out to a late dinner. Everybody came over to my house afterwards.
It was fun.
It was a late night. Got up early. Had a friend come in out of town unexpectedly. Wound up like an hour and a half off my game. Forgot things at home. Josh and I are going to do CrossFit after this, and I forgot my stuff.
Youth Pastor Diet.
Went back home to get it. Forgot half of it. Like it was just. It's been one of those.
He's going to be working out in dress slacks today. It's going to be great.
That could be a fun bit for something.
Oh, I like it. Maybe the More Than Dodgeball show we can do
and CrossFit.
CrossFit in a suit jacket.
Yes.
Okay, Katie, when are you at your worst? Like in the youth ministry cycle of life.
What a great lead.
So I'll start.
Oh,
You start
please.
so I get context. Like just
when are
in
you at your
general.
worst? Well,
I
4
feel like
p.m.
I'm at my worst after a big successful event.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, really? Okay, that's it. Like it worked. Everybody went home. You know, of course I was the last to leave because it was a long event or whatever, you know. And I just am like, it feels that was when I was at my loneliest and like, you know, just that was after a big successful event for whatever reason for me.
That's when you're defeated or vulnerable or down.
Yeah, Monday mornings were also when, I mean, there was at one point at Saddleback when I was doing whether it be the high school ministry, and then we started a ministry for those in their 20s. So there were some weekends when I was like speaking 7 times on a weekend with big church, you know, in there as well. And I would be very tired.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, very tired.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm at my worst when I have days where I'm doing all things that are not in my sweet spot. So like the days where I'm doing all admin stuff, budget and turning things in and, you know, answering everybody who's mad at me. Those usually all tend to fall on the same day.
Yeah.
So I'm at my worst when I'm not doing stuff that I enjoy. So usually it's tasks not associated with people.
Yeah.
So that's
would you rather be in a people meeting?
Yeah.
Even if it was a tough, you know, you have to confront somebody or somebody in your team is struggling or needs to be redirected or like, you know, I think it's like Stacey Farr.
Sure.
So Stacey Farr.
She has to be redirected
she needs
so
to be
much.
redirected and corrected.
I would always, anything with people is usually pretty energizing for me.
Yeah.
Even though hard conversations are hard and you walk away feeling a little bit drained.
Yeah.
It still doesn't drain me like a day of admin, you know, or a day of doing whatever stuff that's not youth ministry too. So in my student ministries role, I have most of that stuff is admin stuff. So dealing with, you know, things at the church or the room being cleaned or, you know, things that I'm just like, I just don't want to do any of it.
Yeah. And for most that go into youth ministry, admin is not one of their greater gifts.
I don't think so.
You know, it's interesting. We find it Download Youth Ministry.
It's for sure not yours.
Definitely not mine.
Some of our best sellers are admin type resources.
For sure. Yes, I could see that. Anything that makes your life easier, cuts corners or whatever.
Yeah,
yes, I'm always looking for those. But yeah, those are my worst. 4 o'clock is a really bad time of day.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, do I start something new? Do I what? I don't know.
Yeah.
So sometimes I hate 4 o'clock.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not at my best at 4.
Just get some coffee and motor through.
Yes,
You're fine. It's a good excuse to get some coffee.
Yeah.
But isn't it interesting? I'm hearing you talk about like budgets and
I don't like
it's
that
funny sometimes is that people want more responsibility. Like you're like the youth pastor. And you're still doing stuff that you don't want to do.
Well, I'm trying not to rise up in my organization as much as possible.
Yeah.
Like if I can stay in the youth ministry trench as much as possible, I do not want any more responsibility than I have right now.
Yeah, but you still have to do a lot of stuff that
Yeah.
You don't like to do.
Yeah, it just comes with, I would say probably like 25% of like my role, what's expected is kind of that yucky admin part.
Yeah, and
that's high. 25% you don't like.
And you've been on staff at the same church for how long?
23 years. Yeah.
So, I mean, think about that to those listening going, you know, and you're still doing 25% of the stuff that you don't like to do at 23 years.
Yeah. I mean, and, you know, I guess that's the leader part, right? I mean, the leadership part is that you have to take on some of that stuff because there isn't anyone else to do it.
Yeah.
So.
Or you get somebody to do it and then something else falls through the cracks and you have to slide over there and pick up.
Or raising up, you know, you raise up a volunteer or somebody to take something off your plate and then something else rises up.
Right.
And that takes time to train people to do the hard things.
Yeah,
so.
There's always something that's breaking.
Yeah. Yes.
Speaking of something that's broken, Josh.
I feel like I love your empathy right now. Thank you.
Josh, how about you?
It's a great therapy session too. It's good.
So great.
It's good. Just get it all out.
Understanding
Get it all out.
Yeah.
I think I'm most vulnerable when I finish a message and I walk off stage. I just don't that place where I am after I like give it all and it's done and I'm like, there's the message and no one really knows how to treat you or talk to you or what to say and it's just weird for everybody. And I think I'm my most vulnerable, my weakest, my most insecure, in all honesty, in that moment, as well as a little riff on maybe how your spots too. But yeah, that's one.
It is weird. That could be some sort of comedic routine of like the different things that people say to you when you step off.
Yes. Yeah. And
step
usually
off
it's
from
nothing.
speaking.
Usually no one says anything to you. So you're like, I don't know if that was good. And I've been doing this for a long time.
It's like, you did good. That was good. Good job.
Yeah, that's like, almost worse than like, was that a good thing or is that the best thing they could find? Why is there no?
Do you think there's an expectation though that people go, you know, like Josh in your case right now, you get paid to speak at different places. Like they're thinking, hey, we cut you a check.
Right. This is you did a good job.
You do. This is what you do.
Thumbs up. Here you go.
But
you have completed the task, sir.
Yeah. Congratulations. Here's your paycheck.
You're a words guy, and so you know words are important.
Yeah. Well, even if there was just one specific thing, it doesn't have to be everything, or even some feedback wouldn't hurt. Like if I'm going to do a series of messages or a D now or a whatever, like I value that as well. Even if it's not necessarily like you did a great job, it'd be like, hey, what about this? That would be exciting to me. Yeah. I definitely don't want to hear, whoa, that sucked. You're terrible. You know, nobody wants that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, nobody will tell you that. You just won't be invited back.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. There is an incredible relief when someone invites you back. And it was so fun. I actually just spoke at an event a few weeks ago in New Jersey. And the guy gets up at the end and said, all right, well, we've had Josh is great. He's done this event for 2 years in a row, but we're not having him back because we're having Katie Edwards next year. Oh. He really said that on stage. It was the great. Of course, I don't want to be back because I'm out of stuff. I can't teach anyhow. But it was great that they were saying because Katie's going back. That made me really happy.
Yeah, I know. I'm excited.
Tough crowd, New Jersey. Good luck.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. They're awesome.
Seriously.
Katie, just make sure that you check with Josh, see what he got paid, so that you can, you know.
Well, and usually I steal Katie's stuff.
Probably shouldn't get paid as much as Josh.
Katie, I know, can't get out and speak as often, and so I just steal her material. So you should really check with me on how much the check was, and also if I've taught your stuff. Because the answer is yes.
Yeah. Welcome to my world, Katie.
Check the content. Oh man.
I just wrote this great new thing on Gen Z. You're gonna love it. Just kidding. That's Katie's material. She's Gen Z expert. Don't invite me to speak on Gen Z.
Hey, speaking of Gen Z, let's
thanks to our sponsors.
Yeah, go ahead. Why don't you pitch our sponsors?
We're thankful for our Gen Z sponsor, Orange Students. That's orangestudents.com or What is Orange or XP3 Students or they have
the
a
Orange
million
Conference,
websites.
The Orange Tour.org.
Just type in Orange. You're going to find your way there. If you want to use the
best yearly curriculum, send us an email at podcast@downloadyouthministry.com. And if you're a DYM member, we'll give you a greater discount than Orange would give you.
That's exactly right.
We have
better than Orange
deal. So much great stuff.
That's pretty cool.
Special deal.
And then we're also thankful for Leader Treks, one of our other sponsors. They provide a member resource every month for Download Youth Ministry monthly members, and make sure you grab their student leadership stuff, as well as on their website they offer trips and mission stuff and work camps.
So many great things.
They're awesome.
Yeah.
We love the Franklins over at Leader Treks.
Is Doug Franklin going to be with us next month in
I haven't heard.
Granger, Indiana?
It's a good question.
Student Leadership Conference.
If you don't have your summer plans all locked in or you want to make some great ones, you can go to studentleadershipconference.com and join Doug and I. We're going to be hanging out with probably leader
tracks. How many years have you guys been doing student leadership conference now?
A long time.
Yeah.
A long time.
Since like the beginning of DYM, right?
Before, well before.
Well, I did it at Saddleback. Me and
I
Jana.
knew that. Yeah.
So that's
when I left Saddleback, we did it. We did it at Azusa Pacific
at Saddleback ever?
Yeah.
After you left, did we?
Oh, I don't.
I hosted it one year with my friend Allison Hibbard.
Stop.
Yeah, Katie was like, "Get that trash."
I know.
I did. I've hosted many times and several times with Allison Hibbard, which is my favorite. One of the very first student leadership conferences that I remember. There was a JCPenney commercial, and I would play this video, and she would just cry on stage for no reason. It was a beautiful, emotional commercial. So throughout the entire student leadership conference, I would just randomly bring back the video, and she would instantly cry. I forget what it was about, but it was obviously...
Well, she's in the room right now. We can ask her.
Allison's here?
It's a Mother's Day commercial.
It was a Mother's Day commercial that was a trigger. It was emotional. It was powerful.
And would you really cry?
Oh, yeah. It got me every time.
Like, full on tears running down her cheek.
And I just explained it to Tori 5 years later and burst into tears.
That's hilarious. Anyhow, studentleadershipconference.com. Greatness. And Allison Hibbert. Allison, are you hosting this year?
I'm not. It's in Granger, Indiana.
Granger, Indiana. You're going to be in a place called...
College Station.
College Station,
Texas.
Love it.
Allison is getting married to somebody she met at DYM 100.
Youth worker.
Yeah, love it.
You guys can add matchmaker to your...
You know what?
To your tagline.
It's not a bad idea.
I've got a billion ideas.
Helping youth workers win.
That's right.
At marriage.
I actually told Allison, you'll appreciate this. I told her the other day that Josh, who she's going to marry, has no idea, I don't think, what a good youth worker she is.
Oh, she's the best.
No, I
think it's going to be
I texted him yesterday and said, we're celebrating your wife. You are marrying out of your league. It's so fun.
Oh, yeah.
But you don't know what you're getting into when you get married, in all fairness.
Well, that's what Allison told me right before the show. This is from Brandon Pruitt. My name is Brandon. I'm a youth pastor out of Des Moines, Iowa. It's Simple Church. I'm a DYM Gold member, a Sidekick user, and a frequent listener to the DYM podcast. Anyway, just got done listening to episode 344. That was 10 episodes ago because we're 354. Send your questions into podcast@downloadyouthministry.com. I just want to say thanks for what you guys do. I always seem to get exactly what I need to hear from conversations. So I just want to let you know that the time you take to do this podcast is greatly appreciated. It's making a difference to youth workers from all over the country, even in Iowa. That's actually good for me to read today because I told Josh this morning, we've been doing this podcast so long. I hate prepping for the podcast.
Right.
I now hate it.
It's worth it, though. Emails like that?
Yeah, well, you don't prep.
It. Yeah, I don't either. Thank you.
No, that's okay.
That's true. Did you have a question or was it just love?
It's not a tremendous amount of prep.
Sure, but prep is prep.
Prep is prep.
Printing out emails?
Well, I'm grateful to be with you guys. I learn a lot on the show.
Thank you. Well, no, it's more than just printing it out, knucklehead.
I love this.
Actually sort through questions.
That's true. I've never written a note on a question before.
Prep is prep.
Yeah. I have a question about how do you handle youth ministry PDA? Public displays of affection, for those of you that are not familiar with the acronym PDA.
Thank you.
I have had
it's not our first time around.
2 incidents. No, I put that in there. It wasn't Brandon.
I was like, okay. Thank you,
Doug
sir.
is just helping
it's
everybody
the lowest common denominator that might be listening to this. You never know.
You never know.
You're pastoring people.
It's part of my prep.
It's why you prep.
I'm so glad you prepped this so well. You're a shepherd.
I have I've had 2 incidents in the past month where one of our girls has invited their boyfriend to group, which is great. However, in both these incidents, both students have become uncomfortable or have become comfortable enough to snuggle up with arms around each other and are sitting on one another's laps. Our youth ministry is a smaller one, 15 to 20 students on average, which makes this pretty hard to ignore. And I can tell it makes others uncomfortable, including myself.
Pretty hard to ignore. Yep.
As I don't want this to become a culture within our youth ministry, I've always made it a point to say something to both of them at some point. I don't call them out in front of everyone, but instead find a time to talk to them off the side, letting them know I'm very glad they're here, but that youth group really isn't a place for that, and it makes others, including myself, uncomfortable. At this point, I've been mostly reactive with it, and it has honestly felt really awkward each time. So my question is, if you've found a way that works for you, to go about communicating with students that they are loved and are welcome, but youth group is not a place for PDA? Or is it really that big of a deal and I'm just overreacting? Let me know. Good news is, despite my awkwardness, both students are still coming to youth group.
Well, there you go.
Side notes, one of these girls is not a believer that I know of, while the other is a student leader. Would like to know your thoughts on how you would handle this.
Ooh, and would you handle them differently is interesting, too.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Katie, you have the most experience with PDA in your youth ministry.
You're a high school pastor.
No,
You're way more than me, for sure.
There have been moments where I'm on stage teaching and I look down and I'm like, oh my goodness, stop right now. I actually think the approach that they're using currently is a pretty good one.
What does it mean, you look down?
Look down from the stage, and there's
you're
PDA.
at a big high stage, and you're looking down on kids.
12 inches off the ground. It's not a big high stage. I look down from the spotlights as I'm so insecure as I walk off stage. Anyhow, I like the approach of like talking to them afterwards. Don't make a scene. Don't call them out. I don't think you need a rule or a poster or anything like that.
Oh, gosh.
You're fine. You're fine.
Yeah.
Have a private conversation with the person who...
A poster would be kind of funny, though.
Please don't sit on each other's laps.
If you really wanted to play
if you could do it just right, it could be really funny.
Yeah.
Different rules or just that one?
Just that one.
I don't know. No. If you like,
put a sticker on the seat that says "This is a chair, not a bed."
Gross.
I'm just giving you options.
You're gross.
I'm giving you options.
No, yeah.
I would say private conversation. Pull them aside afterwards. In particular, I would say the one that is attending church or is you have the stronger relationship with. Have that conversation.
What about visitors?
Great. Visitors, I probably wouldn't. I know that's probably maybe not the answer everybody would give, but I don't think I would.
Well, there's a difference between an answer that somebody would give and what they would actually do.
Yeah.
Well,
a lot of people have strong opinions until they're actually put in that situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I would talk to the students who attend.
Yeah.
And have, knowing this is something now, I would just talk to them ahead of time. Like, hey, I'm so thrilled that you're inviting your girlfriend. That's so great. And just talking to them about, hey, when we're all in together, do you know that, you're a leader even in the seat, and just kind of maybe just casting a vision for your role in the chair. And, other students are looking to you, that kind of thing. Especially if it's a student leader. I think
absolutely.
It's so okay to hold them to
conversation.
Another expectation. But even a church kid who attends regularly, just like, hey, we're a family here and,
Yeah, and I would say this is the same way you handle conversation, whether this is boyfriend, girlfriend, or a same-sex relationship, whatever is happening, the same consistent rules is important. Mm-hmm. So I would just throw that in there as well. Yeah. Would you handle it any differently, Doug?
No, I'd do the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, especially if it's a student leader. I think you're, as a youth leader, you're the culture setter.
Yeah.
You're in charge of that culture, and that culture affects everything. It affects how kids are greeted. It affects how kids feel welcomed. It affects how they hear the message.
Totally.
And if there is, creating discomfort and everybody's looking, while you're trying to, I mean,
Yeah.
If it is affecting you and others, that's all you need to say. It's not going to be an easy conversation, but it may be. Sometimes these uncomfortable conversations are the first time those kids have ever had those conversations with a caring adult in their life, and so you get the opportunity to do it in a way that is grace-filled and instructive and caring, and they can see it in your eyes that you care about them. But if you're not going to have that conversation, somebody eventually is.
Yeah.
And plus, if you don't have the conversations, you're probably going to hear about it from some of the parents
the whispers that are happening behind you.
Chaperones in your youth ministry or leaders.
Well, I would throw out to have the conversation with them, but if you want to talk rules, I just wouldn't do rules at youth group. But you probably would go over rules at camp. So if you want to slip that in as a rule when you are normally talking about rules, great. But I wouldn't do rules at youth group. I wouldn't rehash anything from the stage. But when you're leaving for a trip, I think you could remind them of some of the expectations. When you're heading to camp, that's a natural time to bring up that conversation as well as you build that culture.
Yeah. Well, and if you never talk about it, sometimes teenagers don't know that it's, you know what I mean?
Right. Is it a thing? They didn't know.
They might not understand PDA, like, honestly. And so, not that our teenagers aren't smart or whatever, but just, sometimes they get in a situation with the opposite sex and they're just not thinking. They're not thinking that their actions are affecting them.
I don't know how my hands got down in the pants.
No. I just mean, like, I think.
Just walking.
And it just happened.
Whoa. I don't know.
Totally.
Let me take it a step further. In social media, let's say this happens on social media where they are posting pictures of being very physical.
It happens there, actually.
Yeah. Would you address it then? Is it any different than in youth group?
I just, in the comment section, I just put thumbs down, like 8 thumbs down.
That's right.
Followed by a crying emoji.
A cry, and then a Jesus.
As your pastor, crying
emoji. And then
emoji.
like a praying hands.
Yeah, exactly.
Praying for your purity right now. You need it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think, again, if it's a student leader and, it's an influencer in your ministry, I think it's okay to be like, hey, I saw this on your social media, and, just... you're a leader in every space in your life. Yep. The online space, this space, that kind of thing.
And so cover this stuff up better. Hide it. Don't post it.
Yeah. Basically.
I like that. That
just
feels
put
like
it on
good leadership.
Snapchat or something.
That's studentleadershipconference.com.
Yeah, totally. We have a lot of work to do. I don't know. I think we assume a lot, though, sometimes as youth workers, that they're thinking straight all the time, and they're not. Sometimes they just need to be reminded or redirected, and like, oh, yeah, I'm going to, so, sometimes it's as simple as redirecting. And it's not a heavy conversation. So,
yep, good word.
Brandon also says, I had a thought while listening. He says, I don't remember what we were talking about, but he says, our pastor has this saying, quote, reasonable people, equally informed, seldom disagree.
Wow.
He says, this has been somewhat of a motto for our youth ministry team, and I've really appreciated it, as I believe the intentionality we've placed on keeping each other informed and included has kept us working really well together. I don't remember the conflict that he's referring to, but he says this might be helpful to Ivan.
What was the phrase again?
Reasonable people, equally informed, seldom disagree.
Huh. That's
good.
It's
interesting. I'd have to think about it a little bit more because I'm not sure. Because sometimes reasonable people aren't reasonable when it's emotional to them.
Yeah.
They might normally be reasonable, but if you know,
for sure.
So
that's when we become unreasonable.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I hope that helps Ivan.
Yeah.
Right? Is that Ivan's question from a few shows back or something?
I don't know. I just thought that was an interesting statement. Reasonable people, equally informed, seldom disagree.
Yeah.
So your leaders, when they're all in the loop and trained on the same thing.
Yes, and maybe no.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're on the same page. That does help unity and alignment.
With the PDA question, I cannot help but think of the Office episode about PDA. It's like...
Now that you could play a clip from The Office.
You can't play a clip from that Office episode, but I'm telling you, it's all I can think about right now.
Yeah. I bet you Ben will actually know what season, what episode that is in.
Let's find
out.
3.
What do you think? 2?
I can't pinpoint what season.
Yeah, season 7, you know. Yeah.
Do you have a line from the...
I mean, I know the whole episode.
Give me one line.
A PDA line that would be appropriate for the show.
It's such an inappropriate episode, but it's all about Office PDA and how terrible they are, and they don't notice it, and it's so funny. He can't even get it out.
He can't
say it. Okay, that's it. And we're back, everybody.
Katie, how do you keep students engaged when they're distracted by cell phones?
You mean like in youth group?
Yeah, this is a question that we got on our DYM 100 on location.
Oh,
Texas.
And how do I keep students engaged when they're distracted by cell phones?
It's a
Just
good
curious.
question.
What do you do in junior high ministry? Because a lot of them, they've just been given a cell phone. And
yeah, definitely in junior high, we're like the turning point. I feel like 6th grade is usually, 5th, 6th grade is usually the turning point.
For a phone?
For a phone, yeah, it seems, I mean, it's getting younger and younger, but we seem to be kind of where, I mean, high school is probably way
100%.
Way more than us. But I think there's little pieces of training
Not
that
100%. You can't say that.
probably like 97.8%.
And that 3% of kids is just like, why don't I have a phone?
I know. They're just looking at everyone else's phones.
They totally are. Or they have an iPod, but they only get Wi-Fi, and they're like,
yeah.
My parents.
They just have an email address for texting.
Mom. Yep.
I mean,
parent.
I I think there's a few spaces we don't have cell phones in. So when we do camp and when we do mission trip type stuff, we have a no cell phone policy. And some people, do that. Some people don't. For us, it's just a distraction and a safety issue. So in some of our trip spaces, we don't have cell phones. I mean, kids have them everywhere. So in small group, we just encourage our small group leaders to do a cell phone bucket when kids walk in. And so that's just, if they do it from the get-go, it just kind of creates culture of just during our life group time, we're going to disconnect. Some groups do phone stuff in the beginning and then drop them in during maybe the more serious part of the study part. In our youth group program, I just don't make a huge deal about it until it's time for the message. And so at the message, we do a little, hey, for the next 15 minutes, put your phone on silent, maybe put it in your pocket, that kind of thing. Yeah. Just kind of a little bit of a training piece of just during this time, click in, you might want to take notes on your phone. So maybe just pull up your notes right now. So it's kind of like they have their notes open maybe. So just teaching them to engage with their phone. Yeah. So I don't think there's anything that's going to eliminate phones from my setting. So how do I use that to my advantage and in their favor? So, hey, pull up your notes app and you might want to, write. So I'll say either write this down or type this in. So how do you teach them to engage using their device versus not? Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah, they're used to this conditioning in school a little bit because in many schools you're now allowed to have your phone. You just can't have it out during class or use it during class. So I think having it and not using it is becoming more and more common as well, especially for certain spaces like a classroom or a teaching setting in a church. I think phones are really powerful, though. I used it as an example last week. I spoke at a camp, and I was shocked that they allowed the kids, every kid had their phone at camp. That just isn't the culture that I prefer or have experienced. Yeah. But I was able to use it in a message at camp, and it ended up being really powerful. And so we had this moment where, think of a friend who needs a kind word, and pray for them right now, and then send them a text, and put your phone back in your pocket. And you could start to hear the phones buzzing as kids texted back. And I was like, I know, it's don't look. So it became a really cool teaching moment that wouldn't have been possible without phones. Sure. So I think really clear guidance and direction. And then if you're going to use phones, just make sure you direct them to put their phone away. Because once you open that up, you're going to lose all control. So.
Yeah, I mean, we're moving into a time where phones can't be the enemy. They have enemy features to them for sure. Yeah. But it really has to be, how do we help them engage with technology versus trying to cut it all out? It's just, it won't be possible. Yeah. So, yeah.
Fields, at what age did your kids get phones? Did you hold out?
Ninth grade.
Ninth grade.
Yep.
And then your kid,
7th grade for us.
A little older than 7th grade. And I would say we were younger than that.
Third.
Fourth was the first one, and then by 6th now for all of them for sure. Yeah. So it's just interesting how it's gotten younger. Yeah. And I'm sure the next generation they'll be born with
and I'm 10 years separated from you guys, and so for sure. Parenting, has changed in those 10 years. Oh yeah. Yeah, I can remember one time, our kids did public school, and then junior high. We tried everything. Homeschool for junior high. We tried Christian school. Junior high was not my favorite time in the public world. And then they all went to public high schools. So our youngest was at 8th grade. She's like, Dad, I'm the only one who doesn't have a cell phone. I'm the only one. So she went to Christian school, and so I spoke at her chapel once. And I'm like, I want to give a phone illustration, but I just want to make sure, does everybody here have a phone? Like, raise your hand if you don't have a phone. And of course,
there's plenty that don't.
Plenty of 8th graders that didn't have a phone. But I was like, okay, well, I'll think, I just.
And then at dinner, you're like, hey.
The whole point was for my daughter. Yeah. I just wanted to prove that not everyone had a phone. But 9th grade, giving a kid, so for us, it was just a rite of passage. Yeah. That's how we treated it. And, the reality is that there's not, that rite of passage has changed to.
Oh, it absolutely has. Well, kids are required.
9th grade is child abuse now. If you lived on 9th grade.
I remember even in junior high, one of my kids was nominated for a class officer, and they started a group chat, and his standard phone didn't allow group chats, so he had to get a smartphone. And it was a huge shock for us to go, we're going to put in our 7th graders' hands
a computer,
a full computer with access to the world. Yeah. And now I don't think there's hardly any thought at all about that. But just interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely changing.
Wild. You wrote a book about cell phones, didn't you, or technology? Am I wrong in that?
No, you're not. Yeah, no. I don't remember what it's called.
That also happens with age.
When you've written so many books.
The Diet Coke has gone to my brain cells.
And we just retitled it, and I can't remember. It used to be called "Can I Smash My Kid's Phone?" And
This is not a bit. I thought you were joking.
No,
you really don't know the title of your.
We just re-released it, and it's parenting in a screen generation, establishing boundaries in.
That's a long title.
Well, that's subtitle. Parenting is screen culture, or something like that.
Parenting, the smartphone.
Yeah, it's on Amazon.
Yeah.
Doug Fields, Jonathan McKee. We did
just
it together.
Google it. You'll probably find it.
It's a workbook for parents.
That's
I think it's
cool.
fun. It's got a nice covenant in there for parents and kids. We used in our family as well. So I'm thankful for it. That's why I bring it up.
Yeah. I like the title better. I just need to. I need to remember what it is.
Yeah, just put it in your smartphone.
Parenting in a screen culture, I think.
Screen, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, sounds
Now
well.
I want to stop at the show and look it up, but that's okay. Here is an interesting
Say
question.
it on the next show.
Yeah, there
I
you
was saying
go. Here is. Oh, we got to stop. We got to do 2 shows.
there
We
you
got to
go.
get out of here.
All right.
Okay.
Well,
I looked at the time. Went okay. That's 30 minutes. We do.
Great.
Supposed to do 25-minute
I
shows.
learned a lot.
same. Katie, it's fun hanging out today. Doug, you're also here. That's
Yeah, it's great. And Josh, you have powerful moments. Powerful moments with those phones when you teach. So if you're looking for somebody who knows how to use a phone when they teach to create powerful moments.
I'm just saying they're not always the enemy. That's all I'm saying.
No, I just was. You said it created a powerful moment. I was waiting for the powerful moment. I never really heard it.